parties in downtown Seattle.
Well, we're less than 24 hours away from another huge night in the presidential campaign of Washington Governor Jay Inslee. But will tomorrow night's debate be a new beginning or the beginning of the end for Inslee's 2020 ambitions? Let's send it over to Q13's Brandi Kruse with our esteemed primetime panel tonight. Brandi?
Esteemed is an understatement. We're not messing around tonight. We brought in the heavy hitters. Joining us is Dave Ross. Needs no introduction. You can hear him weekday mornings on KIRO Radio. And then a few hours after that, Dori Monson, host of the Dori Monson Show.
Who does need an introduction.
On KIRO Radio, noon to 3 p.m. And Michael Maddux, a lot of, you've been in the mix in politics for a while, former vice chair of the King County Democrats, past policy advisor to current Seattle City Councilwoman Teresa Mosqueda. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
First, just the debates tonight. Any big standout moments too, Dave?
The moment the moderates were excommunicated by Elizabeth Warren, who basically said, don't come here and tell us what you can't do. Why are you running president unless you tell us what you can do? But I don't think the people who were criticizing, for example, Medicare for all, were pointing out that if you were to take it literally and impose it, hospitals will close down. And I've heard that from a number of sources. So I'm a little bit worried that she's saying, promise the moon, but don't bother figuring out how to do it.
Yeah, and there were a lot of candidates who dinged her on that, saying, I'm not going to win on promises that I can't keep. Dori, what about you?
Come on, it's Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson is the star. She's going to be the next president of the United States. Right in the middle of the debate, my crystals turned blue. And that confirmed that she will be the next president in 2024. So it's all very exciting. It was quite a night for them.
Yeah, our correspondent Simone Del Rosario was telling me downstairs that Marianne Williamson was the most searched for Democratic candidate after the debates in every state except Montana, a state where they had to Google their own governor, apparently.
Yeah, that's right.
Michael Maddux, I want to ask you about Governor Inslee. He's taking the stage tonight. We know that he has not met the thresholds for the full debate. Do you think there's anything he can do tomorrow that would cement his place in that next round?
You know, I think that Governor Inslee hasn't yet really stood out, and a typical year that might be the case. He's a governor with a successful track record. Washington State's the best economy in the country, but this year is different, and I think there's really a lot of focus on getting progressive ideals out of a presidential candidate. He's done a really great job at bringing the climate change debate to the forefront of the Democratic Party, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to really break out tomorrow night, and it might be time for him to start thinking about packing his bags.
Dori, dare I ask you your advice for the governor of our state?
Look, Jay Inslee has no shot, and I said this the day he announced, because, as you know, the opposite of love isn't hate. There's a very fine line.
Marianne Williamson would say that.
Yes, the opposite of love is apathy, and the more Jay Inslee talks, the more apathetic people feel about Jay Inslee. The first debate, he was on MSNBC every 30 seconds leading up to the debate. Then he has the debate, the nation sees him, and he went from 1% to 0% in the Democrat polls. And that's because the more they hear him talk, and, you know, with all due respect to Michael, I don't think Jay Inslee believes one word that he says about climate change, because he has no chance. This is just an ego run for him. And between him and the state patrol troopers that we're paying millions of dollars for to traipse around the country, and his entourage of 20 or 30, he's using more carbon in the last 6 months than the average American in a lifetime. He wouldn't put his ego above the planet if he really believed in his climate message.
Anything needs to be done, huh?
If he doesn't believe in climate change.
I said I don't believe Jay Inslee thinks that it's a real issue.
If he doesn't, then he's sure been wasting a good 25 years of his life on something he doesn't believe in. I want to ask you, Dave.
Yeah.
We've been not infrequently checking the governor's calendars. He spends, at this point, about 50% of his time out of state campaigning. If he decides to come back, because as Michael suggested, the campaign isn't viable and he runs for a third term, can he really convince voters that he should get that job again when he's been gone? Is he able to do that?
Well, I don't know. But, I mean, that's clearly, I mean, if I were his opponent, I'd say, here's a guy who's clearly indicated that he's bored with the governor's job because he tried to run for president. So, you know, why should he run again? But he might also have created enough of a national profile to make people think, oh, you know, this guy's got something going. I don't think he's just talking about it. He's written a book about it. He's been consistent about it while he was in Congress.
Quite a bestseller.
You know,
Well, I think
sometimes
that
I don't have to
only
do any
about who sells the most books.
But I think it's more than just talking about it. It's also presenting a plan that not only moves us in a direction that gets more carbon neutrality within our industries, but also creates those union wage jobs as part of the process.
Okay,
And he's been doing that more so than any other candidate.
To
Right,
answer
Dori,
your question, yes, he does have a chance if he comes back and runs because of his competition. I mean, Bob Ferguson, our AG, I think he's the most dangerous politician in my 24 years on the air. Dow Constantine, who uses State Patrol, King County Sheriff's personnel as his personal Uber. I think that Jay Inslee's competition would be so weak that he would have a strong advantage if he runs for another term.
And the question is, would his political allies even run against him? That's a whole other issue. I want to turn quickly to the primary that's coming up next week. We have a city council, many city council races, 7 of 9 seats up for grabs, 4 of them with incumbents that aren't running again. Some people believe we're in for an ideological shift on the city council. Is that really believable in Seattle that we're going to have such a shift for city leadership?
No,
Michael?
I don't think so. I think that we're going to see, we'll have the 2 at-large members, council members Mosqueda and Gonzalez
Who you
will still
used
be
to
around.
work for.
I used to work for Councilmember Mosqueda. I think that Councilmember Herbold and Councilmember Juarez are both fine for re-election. There'll be probably some differences in style that come out of particularly 4 and 6, but at the end of the day, I think we'll end up right about where we are right now with the ideological balance at the council and potentially more of a focus on constituent services.
I want to give you both a chance to answer this. Is it just a different shade of blue? I mean, there are some conservatives running. Does Sawant keep her seat, for instance?
I don't. Well, from what I hear, just talking to you, she probably will because of the lack of credible opposition. But I think that what's changed is that people who describe themselves, and I hosted a series of forums on homelessness, and I heard this. People would say, "Look, I'm a liberal. I live in Seattle. I believe in liberal philosophies, but I don't want people camping just across the street from my house." And I think that's what's going to shape part of this, that the whole public discipline issue, I think, has now crossed over into Seattle politics, and people want something done about it.
Yeah, different tone. Dori, really quickly, final word on this, go.
Yeah, we need some change because we have become the heroin vagrant magnet for the country. People recognize that our politicians have been completely unwilling or unable to do anything about this problem. We got people, citizens tackling. You had the story a few minutes ago, the guy who rips the sunroof off the car. 5 citizens had to tackle him because we don't have any leadership that's doing anything about this problem. So yes, we do need a change, but we'll be just a different shade of blue. Of course, it's Seattle.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue this conversation on our Q13 Fox Facebook page. Dave Ross, who has to get up early, but he's staying for 10 more minutes. I was promised. Dave Ross, Dori Monson, Michael Maddux.
But wait, Facebook
Thank
Live
you.
or
Facebook
Dave,
Live.
Jay, and Jamie? I don't know who should they watch.
Facebook Live. David, back to you. David, back to you.
Well, maybe